We're here by the fireplace again, Fireside Chats with Nyberg and Fred Campagna, weather boy.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yes.
Should be nervous though, I think.
No, you shouldn't be nervous.
Okay, good.
And behind us is what?
New Haven.
New Haven.
In our big monitor, the Q, Pearl Harbor Memorial Bridge, looking pretty.
And that's actual live traffic, so that's good. All right, so let's get down to brass tacks, shall we?
Okay, right away. This is why I should have been nervous.
Yeah, this is so great. Fred, you're from Bristol, Rhode Island.
I am, yes.
A town that I love. If you haven't been to Bristol, Rhode Island, it's bucolic, it's near the sea, it's awesome. You're an Italian guy.
Okay.
I'm not
Both
telling
are
you
correct.
anything that you don't know. And you have 3 kids. Tell me about your kids.
Great. I'm glad you asked me that because that's one of the things that I would like to talk about the most, of course, as any parent probably would. 2 boys and a girl. My oldest is a sophomore at Holy Cross, the College of the Holy Cross in Worcester. He's doing great. He is a Spanish and international relations major.
At that young of an age.
Yeah, so he's been taking Spanish for a long time. I don't know that he can speak it fluently yet, but he is going to study in Argentina next spring.
Do you believe this? Did you ever get to travel when you were young? I did.
Yeah, these kids have it so good.
Yeah.
That's my oldest. He's a runner like I am. He runs for the cross country.
We'll get to his running in a second.
Our middle child, Dom, is a junior at LaSalle Academy in Providence, Rhode Island, and he's doing great. He is also a runner, and he's just a good, smart kid. He's the president of his class, just a good kid, and Mia, our youngest, is 11. So we had the 2 boys pretty close together, 19 and 17, and then it was just one of those conversations that was like, oh, well, you want to try for the girl?
And here comes a girl, right?
Yes.
So you have 3 perfect children.
Well, I mean, I think that, but I think a lot of parents think that
would
as
say
well.
the same thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your running. Fred's going to run in the Boston Marathon this year. Where did that come from? You started that in high school?
No, I did not actually. I was a soccer player, and up until relatively recently, about 8 years ago, I would look at people running down the road and think, why are they doing that? You know,
that's what I would think.
They must have a screw loose. They don't look happy doing that. And then through my wife and a connection that she had to Disney World, we ended up running a 5K together with a group of some other people down in Disney World.
You and your wife both ran?
Yes, and it was in Disney World, and it was just one of these things that was like, oh, we're going to be in Disney World, we're going to run this 5K. And I was like, okay, fine. And I did it. I loved it. And that was in 2009. And since then, I've run 6 marathons. Boston will be my 7th.
He's in complete, perfect shape. Although, are you carbo loading now for the Boston Marathon?
Well, my life is one big carbo load.
Right, because you're Italian, right, with the pasta and all that.
Yeah, and thankfully, I'm able to eat a lot of carbs. I know a lot of people aren't, but yeah, I mean that's what I eat. I do run a lot. I always say, if you keep the furnace hot enough, anything will burn. So.
Remember that. Put it on the pillow. That's really
right.
good. So, do you get nervous before you run the Boston Marathon? And how many have you run, or is this your first time?
This will be my first Boston.
Okay.
It's something that I had the opportunity a couple of times to do through charity, and it's not that I'm opposed to any kind of charities. I did do a team in training marathon down in Walt Disney World, but I always wanted to qualify for Boston, which you need to run a certain time for your age to be able to do that. And I did that actually in Hartford about 1.5 years ago. So this will be my first Boston Marathon. As far as the nerves go, I don't think I'll be particularly nervous this year.
How many people run it? How many thousands?
35, I think, thousand. Yeah. So I'm pretty competitive with the running.
He's really competitive in any sport.
I am competitive by nature.
Even in the basketball brackets, the NCAA, very competitive.
Even in the forecasting game.
Yes, everything.
So whatever it is.
So let me ask you, what is the forecast kind of looking like this far out for the Boston Marathon for those of you who might be running in it?
Not great. It does look like it's going to be a wet day on Monday. Now, the marathon is so big that some people start at 10 o'clock. The elites start at 10 o'clock, and then I'm in a wave that'll go by at about 10:05 or 10:06. But there are some people who won't be starting till 11:30.
I did not know that.
Yes, so they spread it out, so it's not just this one giant cluster of people, and I think some of those people who are starting a little later in the day may run into some heavy rain at some point on the journey. So I expect it to be cool. I expect it to be raw, damp, and maybe it is from Hopkinton to Boston, so it's basically west to east, and the wind is probably not going to be very favorable.
Do you eat while you're running, and if so, what?
Yes. Well, you need to take in a lot of calories.
And where do you have it on your person?
I should have brought it with me. It's these little gels that it's just straight carbohydrates basically that you're taking, and they don't taste very good, although they do have like flavors like blueberry pomegranate and all this chocolate sea salt. Oh, this will be delicious, but it's just a disgusting gel. And you try to wash it down with the water, and I will have 6 of those, and I actually the shorts that I have pockets which will hold those for me.
You can see how serious he is about this.
Well, everybody will be. If you can't do a marathon without taking in some kind of nutrition.
For it. Tell me about the weather. How did your love for weather? When did that happen?
Probably later than my parents would have liked it to, because I spent a lot of time in college.
And you first
it's a second degree.
Yeah. Take me through the.
Okay. All right. Wow. How long is this? No.
Yeah. So it's as long as you want it to be.
I went to the University of Colorado right out of high school. I was on the ski team. I was a Denver Broncos fan. Boulder, Colorado is beautiful. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. The family business was pharmacy. I was in pre-pharmacy. I could not hack organic chemistry. Probably immaturity issues more than anything else.
So I actually admitted that.
Yeah, well, please. So I backed out of that. I got into an economics program. I got an economics degree. And I also met my wife out there. So I brought back from Colorado an economics degree and a wife. And my wife has proven to be a lot more useful than the economics degree ever did. She's still around. And,
is she watching, by the way? Did you tell her about
She's
this?
Not actually, because she's at the National Honor Society induction for my son.
The perfect children.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, so I have this economics degree, but I've always had this great love for weather. And so I got out of school and I wasn't doing very much with it. I was working in the family business, which was pharmacy.
Is it still open, by the way?
It is not. My parents have retired.
What was the name of it, in case somebody's watching from Bristol?
Campagna's Pharmacy. Everybody knows
that's
that.
Easy. Okay.
Yeah, at one time there were 3, Barrington Pharmacy, another nearby town.
Wow, okay.
So I was working in the pharmacy, and my father was pretty straight about it. He was like, look, you're not going to do this. You're not a pharmacist. You're not going to, take over the business anyway. And I was like, okay, I understand, So I started to think, well, I need to do something. I need to have a career. So I went back to school at Plymouth State University in New Hampshire. And I only had to go for 2 years. And that's what I did. I had very intense, it's a 4-year program, but I had all the gen ed stuff. So it was a very intense 2 years of just meteorology. And I got out of that. Before I graduated, I had a job at WLNE in Providence, which I was very fortunate to not have to move. I worked there for 14 years and spent a little time in Boston, and now I'm here.
Yeah. What do you love about the weather? What's the most frustrating thing for you? Because you're a scientist. You're sitting there. You're reading all kinds of maps and how to get it right and not to. And we're going to talk about his socks in a second, which you can't see, but those are great.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the most challenging thing?
Okay. Well, first part of what do I love about it is that it changes every day. No 2 days are identical. We do see sometimes similar patterns coming through, but I do like the challenge of every single day I can wake up and I can see something different coming down the road, and that just keeps it fresh all the time. What's challenging for me, and particularly from a television perspective, is that we have 3 minutes to tell everyone in the state of Connecticut what the weather is going to be for the next 8 days, and as we know, even though our state isn't huge, we can have a huge variety of weather on any given day.
From the shore of the hills.
So conveying the message is probably the hardest and most frustrating thing. And there are times, of course, where we do get the forecast wrong. Everybody knows that. But there are times where we get the forecast right, but people didn't quite get the message properly because it's very hard to convey. So things like social media make that a little bit easier, a longer format where we can talk to people. Of course, the website and our app, you can be a little bit more detailed. But I would say that's probably the most frustrating thing, is just being able to get that message out the way that I would like to frame it.
Now, Fred has an orange tie on, and his socks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So they're a neon.
Right. They are
Now,
very bright. No, these are actually running socks.
Oh, they're running socks.
Yeah. But they're a compression sock,
Which is good for you for circulation.
Exactly. So I wear them.
Do you see how serious he is?
Yeah, I wear them every day. Not these socks particularly, but so I have all different colors and whatever. And so this just happened it's National Highway Safety Zone Awareness Week.
Of course
so
it is. Yes.
We're in the orange for that.
All right, Fred is also a bit of a nerd. I mean, I'm using that term because you're techie. You love
definitely.
the techie stuff. You've built websites.
Yeah.
When I have issues, I come to you. You're ahead of the curve on that. Where did that come from, or was that just natural?
I think the first website I ever built was actually when I was in college the second time at Plymouth State University. I had some downtime when I was up there, and I learned HTML. And back then, this was 1997, 96. Yeah. You had to do the coding by hand, and I just thought it was kind of neat, and it kind of made sense to me.
So you're a coder.
Yeah, and HTML is really one of the easier programming languages to learn. I had to learn some other ones for some of the meteorology stuff that were a lot more difficult for me to process. So I would create these little websites that were basically like just a bunch of links that I would typically use for weather forecasting stuff. So it was just a site that I would go to and I would know where everything was, think of it like bookmarks type of thing. And then once I got into this business, we work sometimes some different hours. So you're either working early in the morning and then you have all afternoon to yourself, or you're working later in the afternoon and you have all morning to yourself. And I just started doing websites for small businesses and word of mouth. And
are you still doing that?
I still do it. Yeah.
So if somebody needs a
that's
website,
right. Yeah, if somebody needs
you should just get a hold of Fred Campagna.
Sure.
Now, probably some things that you don't know about Fred is I find him really funny. Sometimes we can express that, sometimes we can't on the air. But you're a straight man, and if people are listening, I think you're hysterical. So and I have said to him many times that I think you could do stand-up. Do you think you could do stand-up?
I don't think I could do stand-up. My kids, my wife, they're comfortable on stage, and it's interesting for me because we're not really on stage in here. I talk to myself into a camera, every day.
It's been a problem.
But there's no studio audience. But I do agree with you in that I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't know about me is that I'm probably have a little bit more of an edge, I think, than people may realize on television.
He's very, very quick on his feet.
Yeah, sometimes a lot of those things wouldn't really, cross over too well into the TV news world. But that's fine. I mean, we have fun, and we have fun on camera too. But yeah, no, I've never considered stand-up, so I'm not going there.
All right. So what's one thing we don't know about you? We know you love photography.
Yeah.
We know you love to run. You're a family guy. You're Italian. Your mom still makes you meals that you bring down here from Bristol, Rhode Island, which is, I wish I had a mother like that.
She's the best.
What else do we know about you?
Interesting. I do like to read. I'm an avid reader.
You read what?
Actually, in this run-up, no pun intended, to the Boston Marathon, I read Bill Rogers' book, Boston Marathon winner multiple times. The book that I'm reading now is a book that's about the science of endurance. Again, I'm kind of marathon focused right now, but it's about, does your brain limit what you can tolerate in an endurance event? Can you break through it? Is it just your brain kind of saying, don't go there, or you don't want to go there, and can you push through that wall? So that kind of stuff. But I read all kinds of stuff in the last couple of years, and do you listen to
podcasts? Do you?
I listen to a few, but there's none that are in heavy rotation. I do
see the smile. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I do play the piano a little bit.
What do you play? What genre?
I do. Well, I like playing ragtime stuff. So Scott Joplin.
Okay.
Like Maple Leaf Rag, Entertainer, that kind of stuff. I also. There's a composer, David Lons. It's like a new age kind of a thing. It's stuff that sounds really good but isn't super hard to play. Played some classical. I play some pop stuff. I don't play as much as I want to or should.
Because you're running all the time.
Yeah. No, but I do sit back down.
Do you have a keyboard down here in Connecticut?
I do.
Oh, now see, I have an idea because.
No, I'm not going to.
Because Fred plays the piano and Bill, who's been on, Bill Kachachik, is an accordion player. Perhaps the two of you could work up a number.
I don't think that's going to work, and here's why. Because I'm the kind of pianist who's just like, it's kind of a grind for me. I'm not super. My oldest is a very good piano player. He's taught himself to play the guitar. He's musically inclined. I like playing the piano, but it is kind of a grind. You know, I'm not
it's nerve-wracking?
I'm not a bad piano player. It just doesn't come super naturally to me. So at one point when I was at the University of Colorado, I was in a sort of piano program where I had a graduate student who was giving me lessons for free, and in return what I had to do was I had to be an accompanist for a vocal student.
Oh my God, that would be nerve-wracking.
Right, and I was terrible at it, and I did it, and I'm not afraid to admit this, one time. And they were like, get this guy out of here.
But you know what that says to me? I will make you do this.
I'm not doing it, Anne.
Well, I'm going to...
You can try as much as you want.
I think that would be hysterical. Because, I mean, Bill, you could just work up a little
Bill,
something.
Bill's naturally talented. So.
No, but do you read music?
I do read. That's the thing. I'm a pretty good sight reader, but I'm not great, like if someone starts singing a song that I'm playing.
No one's going to sing.
No, but I'm just saying those kind of things become distracting to me.
Yeah.
So I don't have that kind of thing where the music just kind of comes through me. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I'm not listening.
Right. I knew I should not have said that. I should have just said I like music.
See what the Fireside can do. It just draws people out. Well, Fred, thank you so much.
This was a lot of fun.
For coming on Fireside Chats with Nyberg. And I hope you've learned a lot about Fred and his family and his running and how funny he is and that he plays the piano. And I'm sure you're going to see that. All right.
Okay. So maybe I'll tape something after the 110th take. I'll send it to you.
Oh yeah, we're going to see that.
It's not going to be live.
Thanks for joining us.
Have a good night.
Good night.